This isn't poetic metaphor, it's anatomical. To breathe is to need. To need is to suffer. Let's take a closer look. Pain for the child, trauma for the mother. Growth, confusion, pressure, comparison. Adulthood, stress, broken dreams. Old age, isolation, decay, fear, death. No choice, no dignity, no clarity. Where exactly is the gift in this? Science backs it, not that it needs to. The brain evolved not for happiness, but survival. It's designed to detect threats, remember pain, and fuel anxiety. Because the anxious lived longer. Your mind is a fear machine wearing a motivational t-shirt. And yet modernity insists you can heal suffering with mindset, lifestyle, or faith. As if suffering were a mistake, not a structural feature. But Buddha says, it's not a glitch, it's the whole damn system. And trying to fix life from within life is like trying to drain an ocean with a fork. He who sees suffering sees the origin. He who sees the origin sees the cessation. Samyutta Nikaya. That's not comfort. That's instruction. See it clearly. All of it. Without lying to yourself. The suffering of a child with leukemia. The Alzheimer's patient forgotten by their own family. The starving mother holding a dead infant in a war zone. These aren't exceptions. They're just existence, naked. And when you start seeing this, truly seeing, something breaks. Not in a tragic way, in a lucid way. You stop being surprised by pain. You stop asking, why me? You start asking, why anything? Because here's the core idea. If life is structurally painful, then wanting to continue it, for yourself or others, isn't compassion. It's negligence. The foundation is cracked. Decorating the house won't help. And no, this isn't about despair. It's about honesty. And once you've absorbed this truth deeply, that suffering isn't rare but relentless, the next step becomes inevitable. Not transcendence, not positivity, not even healing. Just this. Stop feeding the fire. Desire is a trap disguised as a miracle. Here's a brutal truth. The moment you want something, you've already agreed to suffer. Craving isn't a glitch. It's the engine. The system runs on it. Biologically, socially, spiritually. You're taught to chase, to long, to need. But Buddha made it painfully clear. From craving springs grief. From craving springs fear. Dhammapada 216. And it goes deeper. Because the most dangerous desire of all isn't money, sex, status, or power. It's the one no one questions. The desire to exist. This isn't some abstract philosophical riddle. It's the core of the human problem, the craving for continuity, for self, for more. In Buddhism, it's called bhavatanha, the thirst to be, the hunger to persist, to stay in the game, to keep the me going at any cost. It's subtle, seductive, and absolutely fatal. Why? Because to desire life is to desire its entire package. Aging, sickness, failure, disappointment, betrayal, death, over and over. It is craving which leads to renewed existence. Second noble truth. Let that sentence settle. Craving causes rebirth. So long as you want to be, you will be. And that's the problem. Even your happiest moment carries its own expiration. You get what you want, and immediately, you fear losing it. Fall in love? You'll fear the breakup. Get rich? You'll fear the crash. Have a child? You'll fear their death before your own. That's not joy. That's dependency in disguise. It's like drinking salt water. The more you taste, the thirstier you get, and the closer you move toward collapse. Buddha wasn't being poetic when he said, like a man shot by an arrow smeared with poison, so is one consumed by desire. And here's where the lie of modern culture collapses. We are told to follow our passions. But what is passion? From the Latin passio, it literally means to suffer. Yet we idolize those who hunger the most, entrepreneurs who never stop, artists who burn themselves out, saints who sacrifice everything. But underneath all that glory, they're still bound by tanha, the same thirst, the same prison. Now compare that with the Buddha, a man who had everything, wealth, sex, power, youth, and walked away. Why? Because he saw through it. He didn't want more. He wanted out. And not out of life because he was tired. Out of life because he was awake. This is what makes Buddhism so radically uncomfortable to the modern self-help mindset. It doesn't say, optimize your desires. It says, end them. Don't fulfill the self. Undo it. There's a reason this feels so threatening. Because if this is true, if desire is suffering, then everything we've been taught to admire is just a prettier kind of pain. All of it. Love, success, hope, legacy. It doesn't mean they're fake. It means they're traps. And if you still want to exist after knowing this, you're not choosing joy. You're choosing torment. Voluntarily. As rain falls on a broken roof, so craving invades the mind. Dhammapada 13. So the question isn't how to suffer less. The question is why we keep wanting to. What if the end goal was not to become whole, but to disappear? You've been lied to about nirvana. They sold it to you as serenity, a soft glow, a mental spa day, a peaceful state of mind you can visit between therapy sessions and gratitude lists. But the ancient texts are far less polite. Nirvana is not inner peace, it's self-erasure. Not calm, not contentment. Extinction. The word itself, nibbana in Pali, means to blow out like a candle flame. Not dimmed, not transformed. Gone. Think about that for a second. All this time you were trying to find balance and spiritual alignment. But what if the final goal was to pull the plug? To vanish? There is, monks, an unborn, unbecome, unmade, unfabricated. Were there not this unborn, there would be no escape from the born. Udana 8.3. This is Buddha's declaration. There is something beyond the machinery of existence. Not a place, not a heaven, but a non-condition. It's not life eternal. It's no more becoming. The fire goes out, and here's where it breaks the Western brain. We are conditioned to think the point of spirituality is to become more fulfilled, to fix the self, to polish it. But Buddha's message was the opposite. The self is the problem. The self is the suffering. The self must dissolve. Just as a flame blown out by the wind goes to rest and cannot be reckoned, so the sage who is freed from name and form is beyond reckoning. Sutta Nipata. No name, no form, no identity, no narrative, no legacy, no reincarnation, no reunion. You don't return. You don't become something else. You cease. That's nirvana. So why do modern people resist this idea so violently? Because we're addicted to the ego. Even in death, we want to be someone. Even in enlightenment, we want a prize. We imagine nirvana as a vacation for the soul. But what if there is no soul? What if freedom means no observer left to enjoy it? This is the terror of true Buddhism. There is no you that gets enlightened. There is only liberation from you. Modern spirituality rebrands Buddha as a happiness coach. But he wasn't trying to help you live your best life. He was showing you how to end the cycle of becoming, how to stop feeding the wheel of samsara, how to cool the fire, not lower the flame, but eliminate the fuel. And the only fuel is craving, especially the craving to exist. This is why nirvana is so radical. It doesn't say, life is hard, but here's how to enjoy it more. It says, life is suffering. Stop clinging to it. And unlike all other doctrines that offer eternal life or rebirth or some transcendent afterparty, Buddha gave a colder, cleaner truth. You are free. Nothing left to want, nothing left to be. That's why nirvana isn't peace. It's cancellation, not the ending of life. The ending of the illusion that life must go on. And once you see it for what it is, not heaven, not bliss, not cosmic union, but non-continuation, suddenly, it all makes terrifying, beautiful sense. He has cut off craving here for name and form. With the end of craving, the end of becoming. Majjhima Nikaya. And when there's no more becoming, there is no more you. And that, finally, is peace. If birth is suffering, then what kind of love brings someone into this world? There's a question people don't ask, because the answer is too heavy. Is it ethical to create life in a system designed to suffer? And here's the unsettling twist. While today's antinatalists use modern ethics and empirical evidence to argue against procreation, Buddha beat them to it 2,500 years ago. No hashtags, no forums, no manifestos. Just this core recognition. Being born is not a blessing. It's a recurrence of bondage. Rebirth is suffering. To be born again is to suffer again. Taga Nikaya. The Buddha's entire project wasn't about how to live better, but how to stop coming back. And that's antinatalism in its purest, most spiritual form. Not just don't reproduce, but don't re-become. Why? Because the cycle of samsara, birth, death, rebirth, isn't a gift. It's a trap. A wheel that grinds identity into dust over and over. And if you think that sounds poetic or symbolic, let's break it down. Every birth sets in motion a body that will decay, a mind that will fracture, a life that will cling, crave, and collapse. That's not potential. That's a sentence. Modern ethics tries to soften this. They say, well, some lives are worth living. But who gets to decide that? The parents, the state, the optimist with no memory of pre-birth silence. David Benatar, one of the clearest voices in modern antinatalism, said it without apology. Coming into existence is always a serious harm. Why? Because non-existence doesn't suffer. Existing always does, even at its best. Now line that up with the Buddha's message. Not being born again, that is the supreme bliss. Itivuttaka 43. That's not metaphor, that's instruction. Stop returning. Stop generating new cycles. Stop populating the wheel of pain. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Creating life is an act of metaphysical arrogance. You assume the right to summon another consciousness into a domain where they will age, fear, hurt, and die, just because you wanted to feel love, or legacy, or the illusion of purpose. But Buddha saw the chain. He saw how one birth leads to another, how craving leads to clinging, which leads to becoming, which leads to birth, which leads to more suffering, until someone breaks the link. With the fading away and cessation of craving comes cessation of clinging, and thus the whole mass of suffering ceases. Dependent origination, paticca samuppada. And it starts here. Don't create more life. Don't create more self. Don't create more suffering. So yes, Buddha was a spiritual antinatalist, not in protest, but in wisdom. He didn't just reject the act of birth, he rejected the entire architecture of becoming. And the only compassion that truly liberates is the one that prevents suffering before it begins. No new births, no new selves, no more continuation. That's not cruelty, that's mercy, that's nirvana. The wisest act in a burning house is not to decorate it, but to leave. Everyone talks about healing, about fixing, about overcoming. But what if the wound is existence itself? And what if the most radical, most compassionate act isn't to endure, but to stop? Stop generating, stop becoming, stop reaching for permanence in a world built to decay. Pause for just a second. Think of how much of your life is just effort, just pushing. working to maintain a body that's constantly falling apart, managing a mind that betrays itself with fear, doubt, obsession, trying to enjoy things that are guaranteed to vanish. You call this life, but what if it's just delay? What if all you're doing, from birth to death, is stalling the inevitable? Delaying collapse, delaying disappearance, delaying the moment you finally let go. The Buddha saw it, not as tragedy but clarity. Just as the sea has but one taste, the taste of salt, so too does my teaching have one taste, the taste of liberation. Udana 5.5. Liberation not from a bad day, not from a bad mood, but from the whole damn thing, from becoming, from identity, from selfhood, from existence itself. And how is that liberation achieved? Not by doing more, not by being better, but by stopping. Stopping isn't passivity, it's revolt. Stopping is the refusal to feed the machine. It's the clearest, cleanest, most violent kind of peace. Not resignation, release. This is what nirvana truly means. The flame goes out. The fuel is gone. No more burning. You don't escape suffering by surviving it. You escape suffering by refusing to recreate it. No rebirth, no repetition, no more one more try. By ceasing to do, one finds peace. Sutta Nipata people cling to life because they believe there's something left to get. A final joy, a last meaning, a redemptive closure. But that's the great seduction, the final mirage. The truth?